What if we knew the time we go extinct? Imagine waking up one morning, scrolling through your phone as usual, and coming across a startling headline flashing across every news site and social media platform around the world. Scientists confirm exact date of human extinction. The message is clear, unambiguous, and chilling. Humanity has a countdown. In exactly 738 years, give or take a few decades, Homo sapiens will vanish from the Earth, wiped out by a chain of events already set in motion. No speculation, no uncertainty, just cold, precise knowledge of when we will go extinct. At first, the world reels in disbelief. Is it some elaborate hoax, a misinterpretation, or a viral piece of fiction? But the data is overwhelming and unanimous. Using a combination of unprecedented breakthroughs in predictive science, quantum computing, and complex simulations integrating genetics, climate modeling, socio-political dynamics, and even cosmic events, researchers have converged on an unnerving forecast. Humanity's future isn't just unknown, it is fixed. This what-if scenario, a world where we know the exact date of our extinction, seems like a plot ripped straight from a dystopian novel. Yet, it forces us to confront questions we've never dared to ask. How would society react to such news? Would knowing our fate spark a global renaissance or a descent into despair? Would governments unite or collapse? Would science race to rewrite destiny or accept the inevitable? And what would it mean for our sense of meaning, purpose, and identity? In this imagined future, the initial shock is palpable. Cities pulse with nervous energy, markets fluctuate wildly, and everyday conversations circle around the countdown. Time itself becomes a tangible commodity, more precious, yet ominously limited. Some people embrace hedonism, living recklessly as if every moment could be their last. Others turn to spirituality, seeking comfort in faith or new belief systems that offer hope beyond extinction. Meanwhile, a different wave of humanity dedicates itself to defying the clock. Scientists, activists, and visionaries band together, determined to rewrite the ending. But beneath this surface turmoil lies a more profound question. What does it mean to know the end? Historically, humanity has always existed with a veil of uncertainty over the future. Catastrophes came suddenly, diseases struck without warning, empires fell unpredictably. The unpredictability of our survival has been a backdrop to our stories, a shadow shaping our ambitions, fears, and dreams. What if that uncertainty vanished? The fabric of human culture itself begins to shift. Art, literature, and philosophy evolve rapidly to grapple with mortality at a civilization scale rather than individual. Economies adapt to a fixed horizon. Education systems recalibrate to prepare younger generations not for endless tomorrows, but for a finite timeline. Political ideologies and alliances are tested. Some become more isolationist, others unify under the banner of a shared fate. Perhaps most hauntingly, the knowledge of impending extinction forces a reckoning with our place in the cosmos. We are no longer just a species on a random trajectory. We are a species with a known expiration date, challenging the ancient belief that progress is endless and that life, in some form, must continue. The stars above, once symbols of infinite possibility, become silent witnesses to a countdown we cannot escape. This world, a strange fusion of scientific certainty and existential dread, is the stage for a story both deeply human and universal. It's a world where hope, despair, resilience, and recklessness collide in unprecedented ways. It's a thought experiment that asks, if the final curtain were drawn in our lifetime, how would we live? What would we fight for? And perhaps most importantly, how would the knowledge of our own end redefine the very meaning of life itself? In the following journey, we will explore this unsettling yet fascinating scenario from every angle: scientific, social, psychological, and philosophical. We will examine how humanity might evolve in response, what mechanisms underpin the prediction, and what lessons this hypothetical future holds for us today. Because, while the date is fictional, the questions it raises are very real and timeless. Before humanity was faced with the chilling certainty of its own extinction date, the world was already standing at a crossroads. Our modern era is defined by incredible technological advances and complex social dynamics, yet it remains precariously balanced on environmental, political, and existential fault lines. To understand how we could arrive at a moment when extinction timing becomes known, we must first look deeply at the current state of our civilization, the scientific, social, and technological context that shapes our destiny. In the early 21st century, human society is more interconnected than ever before. The digital revolution has transformed communication, economies, and knowledge sharing. Vast amounts of data flow ceaselessly through networks that link billions of people, devices, and machines. Artificial intelligence systems analyze this data to detect patterns, optimize processes, and even predict human behavior. From healthcare to climate science, AI-driven models provide insights once thought impossible. Yet, this flood of information is a double-edged sword. While science has made strides in understanding complex phenomena such as climate change, genetic evolution, and cosmic events, there remains significant uncertainty about long-term outcomes. Many global challenges are intertwined. Rising greenhouse gas emissions contribute to a changing climate, which in turn disrupts ecosystems, agriculture, and human health. Political instability, fueled by resource scarcity and inequality, threatens global cooperation. The COVID-19 pandemic revealed both the resilience and fragility of human systems, underscoring how quickly the world can change. Amid these complexities, a new frontier of scientific inquiry emerges: predictive modeling on an unprecedented scale. Researchers harness quantum computing and advances in machine learning to build simulations that integrate every conceivable variable: atmospheric chemistry, socio-economic trends, technological innovation, and even human psychology. These simulations run on massive supercomputers, iterating through trillions of possible futures to identify patterns that could indicate long-term trajectories for humanity. Simultaneously, breakthroughs in genomics and molecular biology offer a clearer picture of human evolution, not just of individuals, but of the species as a whole. By understanding how genetic mutations accumulate, how diseases evolve, and how environmental pressures affect survival, scientists gain insights into our biological vulnerabilities and strengths. Space agencies and astronomers monitor cosmic phenomena, asteroid trajectories, solar activity, and gamma-ray bursts that could have catastrophic impacts on Earth. However, it is the integration of these diverse fields into a single, cohesive predictive framework that sparks the real revolution. Combining hard sciences with social sciences, the new predictive models begin to generate timelines, not just probabilities. For the first time, a plausible scenario emerges where the convergence of environmental collapse, technological risks, and cosmic hazards points to a relatively narrow window of existential risk. This scientific context creates a paradox. On one hand, it is a testament to human ingenuity. Our capacity to gather, process, and synthesize information into comprehensive knowledge is staggering. On the other hand, it reveals a terrifying vulnerability, a future that might not be infinite or even long-term, but sharply defined by limits we can now measure. Socially, the world remains deeply divided. Wealth and opportunity are unevenly distributed, with many nations struggling to adapt to rapid changes. Political systems are often reactive rather than proactive, mired in short-term interests and ideological battles. Public trust in institutions fluctuates, challenged by misinformation and polarization. Environmental activism grows louder, but so do the forces resistant to change. Technology advances rapidly, but with it come unforeseen risks. Automation threatens jobs, artificial intelligence raises ethical dilemmas, and biotechnology opens Pandora's box of possibilities and dangers. Cybersecurity concerns grow as infrastructure becomes more digitized and interconnected. Meanwhile, space exploration rekindles dreams of humanity's survival beyond Earth, yet also highlights our planet's singular importance. Within this turbulent yet dynamic context, the idea of knowing the exact time of humanity's end seems almost inevitable. As scientific understanding deepens, and as the tools to process complexity become more powerful, the boundary between uncertainty and certainty begins to blur. The unknown future, that has always been a source of both fear and hope, starts to crystallize into a specific narrative, a countdown to extinction. Yet, before that countdown appears on the horizon, humanity lives in a paradox of hope and anxiety, innovation and conflict, progress and risk. It is a world hungry for meaning, striving for survival, and searching for answers to questions older than civilization itself. This backdrop sets the stage for the moment when the impossible becomes real. The moment when the extinction date is no longer a mystery but a known fate. The deep interconnectedness of scientific disciplines, the rapid pace of technological development, and the complex social fabric together create the conditions for this profound revelation. It is a future born from our present, an echo of our successes and failures, our ambitions and fears. In the coming chapters, we will explore the turning point when humanity confronts this knowledge and the cascading effects that ripple through every aspect of life on Earth. The turning point comes unexpectedly, not with a sudden disaster, but with a breakthrough in science that reshapes humanity's understanding of its own fate. It begins in a sprawling research facility somewhere on Earth, where an international coalition of scientists and technologists is pushing the boundaries of predictive modeling. This team combines the most advanced artificial intelligence with quantum computing, biological data, and environmental models, seeking to create the most accurate simulation of humanity's future ever attempted. For decades, scientists had predicted various risks: climate change tipping points, pandemics, nuclear conflicts, but these remained probabilities, guesses shaded with uncertainty. Then, by integrating disparate data sets in novel ways, the coalition's algorithm uncovers an ominous pattern, a convergence of events, both natural and human-driven, that align on a specific timescale. The machine predicts a cascade of ecological collapses, technological failures, and social upheavals culminating in the extinction of Homo sapiens within centuries. More strikingly, the timeline is not vague. It zeroes in on a surprisingly precise window, between 700 and 800 years from now. The news leaks first to the scientific community, then to governments, and rapidly to the public. The initial reaction is disbelief, skepticism, even denial. How could any model claim to predict extinction with such accuracy? Critics point to the complexity of human systems, the unpredictability of human innovation, and the chaotic nature of the universe itself. Yet, as independent teams replicate the results, using different models and approaches, the consensus hardens. The date is real, or at least, it's the most credible forecast humanity has ever faced. In the early days of revelation, society undergoes a profound psychological shift. Individuals and communities grapple with what this knowledge means. Some experience intense anxiety and existential dread. Others find a strange relief in certainty, knowing when the story will end, even if they can't change it. Conversations around the dinner table, in classrooms, and across digital platforms center on questions that were once taboo. What will happen to humanity? How much time do we have? What should we do with the knowledge? Media outlets flood the airwaves with coverage. Experts hold endless debates, and governments hold emergency summits. Religious leaders issue statements ranging from calls to faith and repentance to reinterpretations of doctrine in light of humanity's impending demise. Meanwhile, a surge of artists, writers, and philosophers emerge, grappling with new themes of finality and meaning. In cities worldwide, people look up at the night sky with renewed intensity, acutely aware of their fragile place beneath the stars. The idea of time becomes hyper-real. Calendars, clocks, and countdown timers are displayed publicly, symbolizing the shared fate of billions. Some embrace nihilism, indulging in risky behavior, or abandoning long-term plans. Others double down on legacy building, trying to preserve knowledge, culture, and achievements for whatever future remains. At the same time, there is an extraordinary surge in scientific ambition. Governments pour resources into research aimed at delaying or preventing the predicted extinction, projects to combat climate change, genetic engineering to enhance resilience, and exploration of space colonization accelerate at an unprecedented pace. Entire industries pivot toward sustainability and survival technologies. The question that dominates scientific inquiry becomes, can we rewrite the future? Yet, amid this frantic effort, an undercurrent of uncertainty persists. Many experts caution that the timeline, though robust, is based on current trajectories. Variables unknown or poorly understood, technological breakthroughs, social revolutions, cosmic events, could shift outcomes. The models offer not fate, but probabilities sharpened to a razor's edge. This nuance sparks fierce debate. Should humanity resign itself to a predetermined end, or fight against it with all its might? On the streets, the social fabric begins to strain. Economic markets fluctuate wildly, driven by speculation and fear. Investment in futures industries, space travel, life extension, environmental engineering, skyrockets. Political leaders are tested by competing demands, immediate social welfare versus long-term survival strategies. Some nations adopt isolationist stances, focusing inward as panic spreads, while others seek global cooperation, recognizing extinction is a shared threat. This moment of revelation also ignites divisions in public belief. Conspiracy theories flourish, questioning the authenticity of data or alleging hidden agendas. Some groups reject science altogether, retreating into denial or fatalism. Others embrace radical movements focused on spiritual transcendence or building new social orders. The very concept of truth becomes contested in a world faced with an existential countdown. Through all this chaos and upheaval, a deeper existential question emerges. What does it mean to live with a fixed expiration date? For the first time in history, humanity is confronted not just with mortality at the individual level, but mortality as a species. This confrontation reshapes how people think about identity, legacy, and purpose. It challenges centuries of progress narratives and the deeply ingrained belief in endless human advancement. In the wake of this revelation, humanity stands at a precipice, a moment suspended between despair and hope, resignation and resistance. It is a fragile balance where the future is known but not yet decided, where every choice could shift the course of history in profound ways. The next steps taken will determine not only how society adapts, but whether the story of human civilization continues at all. As the extinction date becomes public knowledge, the world undergoes a profound transformation, not over centuries, but within months and years. The knowledge that humanity's end is certain, and on a precise timeline, sends shockwaves through every aspect of life: economies, societies, daily habits, and the collective psyche. The immediate ripple effects are complex and paradoxical, revealing both resilience and fragility in human systems. Economically, markets become volatile almost overnight. Investors scramble to adjust portfolios, seeking assets that will retain value despite the looming apocalypse. Some industries skyrocket, those related to survival technologies, space exploration, and resource conservation attract massive funding. Others collapse, especially sectors relying on long-term consumer confidence, like real estate, luxury goods, and entertainment. Governments face enormous challenges balancing short-term economic stability with the urgent need to fund existential research and infrastructure. The labor market also shifts dramatically. With finite time ahead, many workers abandon traditional career paths, opting instead for jobs that offer immediate fulfillment or contribute directly to survival efforts. Education systems scramble to adapt, placing greater emphasis on skills related to sustainability, technology, and crisis management. Younger generations, in particular, grow up with a drastically altered worldview, planning their lives around a fixed endpoint rather than open-ended possibilities. Social life, too, changes in unpredictable ways. Some communities rally together, united by the shared knowledge of their fate, fostering solidarity and cooperation on unprecedented scales. Volunteerism and altruism surge as people seek to support one another in the face of extinction. Yet, simultaneously, social fragmentation intensifies in other areas. Anxiety and fatalism fuel withdrawal and distrust. Mental health crises become widespread, with increased rates of depression, anxiety, and existential despair. Governments respond with varied strategies. Some declare states of emergency, imposing stricter controls to maintain order and channel resources toward mitigation efforts. Others promote transparency and open dialogue, encouraging citizens to participate in shaping adaptive policies. International organizations attempt to coordinate global action, recognizing that extinction is a problem without borders. However, geopolitical tensions flare as some countries prioritize national interests over global collaboration, hoarding resources and information. Technology becomes both a beacon of hope and a source of concern. Innovations aimed at extending human lifespan, reversing environmental damage, or enabling off-world colonization accelerate rapidly. Public enthusiasm for these breakthroughs is immense, as many see technology as the best, if not the only, chance to alter the extinction timeline. At the same time, fears about the unintended consequences of hastily deployed technologies grow. Ethical debates intensify around genetic engineering, AI governance, and data privacy. Religious and philosophical movements experience a renaissance. Many turn to faith or spirituality for comfort and meaning, interpreting the extinction date through the lens of prophecy or divine plan. New belief systems emerge, blending science and spirituality, offering narratives of transcendence beyond physical demise. Conversely, secular and rationalist communities grapple with nihilism and existentialism, seeking ways to find purpose without illusions. Amidst this turbulence, cultural production flourishes in unexpected ways. Artists, writers, filmmakers, and musicians explore themes of finality, legacy, and the human condition with renewed urgency. This cultural awakening serves both as catharsis and a collective attempt to process and commemorate the shared fate. Museums, archives, and digital repositories see a surge in efforts to preserve human knowledge and creativity for posterity. Despite the chaos, many individuals find ways to adapt constructively. Movements centered on sustainability, community resilience, and mental health support gain momentum. Grassroots initiatives promote local food production, renewable energy, and circular economies. Education programs teach emotional coping skills and encourage dialogue across divides. The collective focus gradually shifts from panic to purposeful adaptation. Yet, amid the early optimism, there are voices of caution, warnings that the psychological and societal strains of knowing the extinction date may produce unintended consequences. Some experts highlight risks of social unrest, nihilistic behaviors, or authoritarian crackdowns. The fragile balance between hope and despair requires delicate management to avoid tipping into chaos. As humanity grapples with the immediate aftermath of the revelation, it becomes clear that the knowledge of extinction's timing is a double-edged sword. It galvanizes unprecedented mobilization and introspection, but also exposes vulnerabilities in our social fabric and institutions. The first years following the announcement are a crucible, testing humanity's capacity for resilience, cooperation, and meaning-making in the face of ultimate limits. The story of this period is one of contrast, destruction and creation, despair and hope, fragmentation and unity. It is a snapshot of humanity's complexity, when confronted not just with an uncertain future, but with a known ending. What emerges here sets the foundation for the deeper challenges and transformations yet to come, as the countdown continues and the world adjusts to life under the shadow of extinction. As the years turn into decades and the knowledge of our extinction date settles deeper into the collective consciousness, humanity begins to experience profound and unexpected long-term consequences. The immediate shock waves have subsided somewhat, but new challenges, environmental, social, political, and psychological, emerge, reshaping the very fabric of human existence. Environmentally, the effects of human activity that once seemed reversible now take on a more urgent dimension. With the clock ticking toward extinction, efforts to curb climate change and biodiversity loss intensify, but the damage already inflicted on the planet sets irreversible processes in motion. Melting polar ice caps accelerate sea level rise, forcing mass migrations from coastal cities. Ocean acidification disrupts marine ecosystems, undermining food security for billions. Forests shrink, deserts expand, and weather patterns become more extreme and unpredictable. Interestingly, the pressure to survive triggers a paradoxical relationship with nature. On one hand, humanity's exploitation of resources diminishes as conservation efforts gain traction and sustainability becomes a core principle of survival. On the other, desperate competition for dwindling resources sparks conflicts and geopolitical tensions. Nations and communities grapple with the balance between cooperation and self-preservation. Environmental refugees swell the ranks of displaced peoples, further straining social cohesion. Politically, the world undergoes seismic shifts. The traditional structures of governance struggle to remain effective amid the accelerating crises. Nationalism surges in some regions, driven by fears of scarcity and loss, while other areas witness unprecedented cooperation, forming coalitions that transcend borders to address shared existential threats. International organizations, once criticized for inefficiency, are revamped and empowered to coordinate large-scale initiatives. However, power struggles persist, and inequality remains a destabilizing factor. Socially, relationships and institutions evolve in response to the finite horizon. Family structures adapt. Some prioritize smaller units focused on emotional resilience, while others expand communal bonds to share resources and support. Education systems continue to transform, emphasizing adaptability, emotional intelligence, and ethical responsibility alongside technical skills. The concept of legacy takes on new meaning, with individuals and groups striving to leave positive marks on the world despite its impending end. Human psychology experiences a complex interplay of adaptation and strain. Some embrace stoicism and acceptance, finding meaning in the present moment. Others oscillate between hope and despair, leading to fluctuating mental health trends worldwide. Philosophical and spiritual frameworks diversify, blending ancient wisdom with new interpretations suited to the era's unique existential reality. Technological innovation persists, but becomes increasingly focused on mitigating collapse and enhancing quality of life within limited timeframes. Breakthroughs in renewable energy, biotechnology, and artificial intelligence offer tools to manage environmental and social challenges. However, debates about ethical boundaries intensify, particularly regarding genetic modification, AI autonomy, and digital preservation of consciousness. The economy evolves into a hybrid model, blending market mechanisms with planned interventions geared toward sustainability and survival. Traditional capitalism adapts, incorporating long-term ecological costs and social welfare priorities. New industries emerge around restoration ecology, resilience engineering, and cultural preservation. Economic disparity narrows in some regions due to collaborative initiatives, though gaps remain. Culturally, humanity cultivates a rich tapestry of expression, reflecting the tension between hope and loss. Art, literature, and media explore themes of finality, connection, and transcendence, serving both as coping mechanisms and as legacies for future generations, should any remain to inherit them. Public memorials and digital archives proliferate, chronicling humanity's story with a consciousness of its imminent closure. Amidst these transformations, ethical questions become paramount. How do we value life, knowing it will end? What responsibilities do we hold toward future generations or other species? Debates about assisted dying, reproductive rights, and interspecies empathy become central to societal discourse. The meaning of progress shifts from conquest and accumulation to stewardship and dignity. As time advances, the psychological weight of extinction's certainty influences individual and collective decision-making. The urgency to solve immediate problems coexists with a growing philosophical inquiry into what it means to live well with the end in sight. This tension shapes policies, social movements, and personal choices alike. Ultimately, the long-term consequences of knowing the extinction date extend beyond survival strategies. They invite humanity to reconsider its place in the cosmos and the legacy it wishes to leave. This era, marked by both crisis and creativity, challenges us to find purpose not in infinite continuity, but in meaningful existence within finite bounds. The story of this phase is one of profound transformation, a civilization reshaped by the knowledge of its own limits, striving to reconcile hope and reality, action and acceptance. As the countdown continues, the decisions made in this period set the stage for the ultimate chapters of human history. Beneath the societal upheaval and existential questions lies the bedrock of this terrifying certainty, the science that makes it possible to predict humanity's extinction with unprecedented precision. To grasp how such a prediction emerges, we must journey through the complex and interwoven scientific disciplines, from quantum computing and molecular biology to planetary science and artificial intelligence, that converge to reveal this chilling timeline. At the core of this predictive capability is a revolutionary leap in computational power. Quantum computers, unlike classical machines, leverage principles of quantum mechanics such as superposition and entanglement to perform calculations at speeds exponentially greater than their classical counterparts. This enables the processing of vast, multidimensional datasets and the running of simulations with trillions of variables. Complex systems, climate, ecosystems, human society, can be modeled with greater fidelity, capturing feedback loops and emergent behaviors that classical models missed. Yet raw computational power alone is not enough. The models integrate data across numerous scientific fields, forming a holistic picture. Climate science contributes detailed projections of atmospheric chemistry, ocean currents, and biosphere responses to greenhouse gases. These models show tipping points where small changes cause cascading environmental collapse, such as permafrost melt releasing methane or coral reef die-offs disrupting marine food webs. Simultaneously, advances in molecular biology and genomics reveal how humanity's own biology influences its survival. The accumulation of genetic mutations, vulnerability to emerging diseases, and potential limits to human adaptability feed into population viability analyses. Researchers map how human genetic diversity interacts with environmental stressors and pandemics, identifying thresholds beyond which populations cannot sustain themselves. Physics and cosmology also play a role. Astrophysicists track near-Earth objects, asteroids and comets, that pose existential threats. Solar activity cycles and cosmic radiation bursts, such as gamma-ray bursts, are studied for their potential to disrupt Earth's biosphere. Though rare, these events are incorporated as probabilistic risk factors. Artificial intelligence orchestrates the integration and analysis of these vast datasets. Machine learning algorithms identify patterns and correlations invisible to human researchers. By feeding simulations with current data and iteratively refining parameters, AI helps pinpoint not just possible futures, but likely trajectories. The models produce timelines highlighting when critical thresholds, ecological, biological, technological, will be crossed. The mechanism of prediction is not deterministic in a classical sense. It relies on probabilistic forecasting sharpened by deep learning and real-world data. It assesses complex cause-effect chains, such as how climate change amplifies disease vectors or how social unrest undermines environmental policy. The output is a convergence zone, a window in which extinction events become highly probable given current trends and interactions. Importantly, the models also account for potential human interventions, technological innovations, policy changes, behavioral shifts, and their possible effects on extending survival. However, these are weighted against inertia and systemic risks that tend to reinforce negative feedback loops. For instance, delaying action on climate change can trigger irreversible damage that no future innovation can fully reverse. Underlying all these predictions is a fundamental scientific understanding of life's fragility and resilience. Molecular biology shows how delicate cellular systems are, vulnerable to mutation and environmental stress. Ecological science reveals how interdependent species maintain balance. When one collapses, the whole system can unravel. Physics grounds these phenomena within the laws of thermodynamics and entropy, reminding us that all systems tend toward disorder unless energy and information maintain order. The predictive models represent the apex of human scientific achievement, our attempt to decode the complex multi-scale dynamics of a biosphere intertwined with a technological civilization. Yet, they also expose our limitations. They show that while technology and knowledge have vastly expanded our capabilities, we remain subject to fundamental planetary and biological constraints. This scientific framework transforms abstract fears into quantifiable risk, moving extinction from speculation into the realm of calculable reality. It also reveals why the timeline is not arbitrary, but emerges inevitably from the interplay of physical laws, biological limits, and human actions. Our fate is encoded in the data, waiting to be read by those with the tools and insight to interpret it. Understanding this mechanism is crucial not only for accepting the prediction, but for guiding responses. It shows where intervention may be most effective, whether in stabilizing climate systems, protecting genetic diversity, preventing technological catastrophes, or preparing for cosmic hazards. It also highlights the urgency of cooperation across disciplines and borders, as no single field or nation can alter the trajectory alone. As humanity grapples with the knowledge of a fixed timeline, the science behind it serves both as a beacon and a warning, a testament to human ingenuity and a reminder of our vulnerabilities. It challenges us to deepen our understanding, refine our models, and most importantly, act wisely and collectively if we are to change the story that the data now tells. As the countdown to humanity's extinction marches forward, the initial efforts to adapt and mitigate give way to mounting crises that test the very limits of our civilization. The warning signs once theoretical now manifest with devastating clarity, setting off a cascade of interconnected disasters that plunge the world into turmoil. This phase marks the high point of tension and instability. The crisis unfolds in full force. Environmental systems, pushed beyond tipping points, begin to collapse at unprecedented rates. The polar ice sheets shrink dramatically, accelerating sea level rise and submerging major coastal cities. This triggers mass migrations of millions fleeing inundated homes, overwhelming inland infrastructure, and sparking conflicts over dwindling resources. Agricultural zones shift unpredictably due to extreme weather. Droughts parch once fertile lands while sudden floods wash away crops, resulting in global food shortages that strain supply chains and ignite social unrest. Simultaneously, biodiversity loss escalates catastrophically. Keystone species vanish, disrupting ecosystems in ways that ripple through food webs. Pollinators essential for crops decline sharply, further threatening food security. Oceans, increasingly acidic and depleted of oxygen, see the collapse of fisheries that support billions of people. These environmental collapses create feedback loops that accelerate climate change and ecosystem degradation, creating a downward spiral difficult to reverse. Public health crises multiply. Novel infectious diseases, fueled by environmental disruption and dense human migration, spread rapidly. Healthcare systems, already strained by resource scarcity and political instability, struggle to respond. Mental health deteriorates globally as anxiety, trauma, and despair permeate societies facing relentless hardship and an inescapable future. Suicide rates climb. Communities grapple with collective grief. Politically, states buckle under the strain. Governments fall or become authoritarian as they seek control amidst chaos. National borders are increasingly militarized as competition for water, arable land, and safe havens intensifies. Alliances fracture, global cooperation frays just when it is most needed. Some regions descend into prolonged conflict, civil wars erupt, and international peacekeeping efforts falter. Economic systems falter under pressure. Global markets become erratic and fragmented. Trade networks collapse as transport infrastructure is damaged or deprioritized. Currency crises and inflation soar in many areas. Traditional industries wither. Informal economies and barter systems emerge in their place. Poverty deepens, especially among vulnerable populations. Social cohesion erodes in many communities. Trust in institutions wanes as corruption and mismanagement become rampant. Religious and ideological extremism rise as people seek meaning and scapegoats. Misinformation spreads wildly, undermining public health measures and sowing discord. Amid the chaos, grassroots groups and local leaders strive to maintain order and provide aid, but resources are stretched thin. Technological systems face unprecedented challenges. Power grids falter due to lack of maintenance and overuse. Communication networks intermittently collapse, isolating populations. Efforts to deploy cutting-edge solutions like geoengineering, synthetic biology, and advanced AI face ethical dilemmas and technical hurdles. Some initiatives succeed in localized areas, but systemic coordination proves elusive. This cascading crisis is not simply a collection of separate catastrophes, but an interconnected web where failures in one domain trigger breakdowns elsewhere. The fragility of modern civilization becomes starkly evident. The social contract frays as survival instincts override collective responsibility. Yet, within this darkest chapter, pockets of resilience and hope emerge. Communities adapt with innovative local solutions: urban farming, water recycling, decentralized energy production. Knowledge sharing intensifies through informal networks. Some governments and organizations double down on collaboration and humanitarian aid. Stories of solidarity and courage proliferate alongside tales of despair. Philosophically, humanity confronts the limits of progress narratives. The notion of endless growth is shattered. The illusion of control gives way to humility before complex systems. New frameworks emerge emphasizing stewardship, interconnectedness, and acceptance. The crisis phase is the crucible that tests the choices made in earlier years. It exposes weaknesses, but also galvanizes innovation and reevaluation. The question becomes whether humanity can harness this moment to pivot toward survival and transformation, or whether the spiral into collapse will continue unchecked. This high-stakes period underscores the urgency of collective action and the fragile balance between collapse and regeneration. It is a raw, unfiltered portrayal of a species confronting its mortality on a global scale, revealing both the depths of vulnerability and the potential for remarkable resilience. As the world teeters on the brink of collapse, a wave of unprecedented human determination surges forth. Faced with cascading crises and the ticking clock of extinction, societies mobilize in ways never before seen, innovating, collaborating, and reinventing themselves in a desperate bid to rewrite the future. This chapter in humanity's story is defined by bold responses, daring strategies, and fierce debates about what it means to survive. Governments and global coalitions launch massive coordinated efforts aimed at stabilizing the planet and preserving civilization. Large-scale geoengineering projects are deployed to slow climate change. Reflective aerosols are released into the atmosphere to reduce solar radiation. Ocean fertilization initiatives seek to boost carbon absorption by phytoplankton. Though controversial and risky, these technological interventions represent humanity's willingness to intervene directly in Earth's systems on a planetary scale. At the same time, space colonization programs accelerate dramatically. With extinction looming, governments, private enterprises, and international consortia unite to develop self-sustaining colonies on the Moon, Mars, and orbital habitats. These off-world refugees, are not mere scientific experiments, but lifeboats intended to preserve human life and culture beyond Earth's limits. Massive investments in propulsion technology, closed-loop life support, and extraterrestrial agriculture aim to turn science fiction into reality within a few generations. Back on Earth, social and political structures undergo radical transformations. Traditional nation-states give way to new forms of governance centered on cooperation, resource sharing, and resilience. Regional alliances and city-states form networks to pool knowledge and coordinate disaster response. Direct democracy, empowered by digital platforms, rises as citizens demand transparency and agency in shaping survival strategies. Ethical frameworks evolve alongside these shifts. The question of who receives scarce resources, food, water, medicine, technology, becomes a central moral dilemma. Debates rage over reproductive rights in a world with finite future generations. New social contracts emphasize intergenerational justice, ecological stewardship, and collective responsibility. Philosophers and ethicists play crucial roles in guiding policies that balance survival with dignity. Technology becomes both a tool and a battleground. Artificial intelligence systems assist in managing complex resource allocations and predicting crisis hotspots. Biotechnology pioneers develop gene therapies aimed at enhancing human resilience to environmental stresses and diseases. Synthetic biology explores possibilities of engineered organisms that could restore ecosystems or provide new food sources. However, these advances raise profound questions about identity, consent, and unintended consequences. Education transforms to prepare new generations for a world with limits and uncertainties. Curricula emphasize adaptability, critical thinking, emotional resilience, and ecological literacy. Lifelong learning and community-based knowledge sharing become pillars of societal survival. Cultural narratives shift toward valuing simplicity, cooperation, and harmony with nature. Psychologically, people face immense challenges. Support networks, mindfulness practices, and collective rituals emerge to help individuals cope with existential dread. Storytelling, art, and music serve as vehicles for processing grief and envisioning hope. Communities celebrate milestones, births, achievements, acts of kindness, as affirmations of life amid uncertainty. Importantly, movements advocating for planetary and cosmic citizenship gain prominence. The sense of belonging expands beyond national or ethnic identities to a shared human destiny, and eventually a cosmic one. This worldview fosters cooperation and motivates efforts to secure humanity's legacy in the universe. Despite these inspiring efforts, the path is fraught with obstacles. Political disagreements, technological failures, and social tensions threaten to derail progress. Ethical controversies spark heated debates. Resource scarcity forces difficult trade-offs. The shadow of extinction looms as a constant reminder that survival is not guaranteed. Yet, the indomitable human spirit persists. History shows that in the face of existential threats, innovation and solidarity can emerge strongest. The struggle to extend life, preserve knowledge, and maintain meaning becomes a defining chapter in the human saga. This period reveals that survival is not merely about biological continuation, but about evolving values, identities, and systems in response to ultimate limits. It is a testament to humanity's capacity for hope, creativity, and courage when confronted with the abyss. As this fight for survival unfolds, it sets the stage for envisioning what a future beyond extinction could look like. A future shaped by lessons learned, sacrifices made, and possibilities reimagined. As humanity grapples with the harsh reality of a predetermined extinction, a remarkable transformation unfolds. A vision of a new future arises, born from the ashes of crisis and the courage of collective will. This future is neither a simple continuation of the past, nor a bleak final chapter, but a reimagined world where legacy, consciousness, and existence take on new meanings. At the heart of this emerging future is the idea that humanity's story does not have to end with physical extinction. Advances in technology enable unprecedented efforts to preserve consciousness, culture, and knowledge beyond biological limits. Digital archives grow into vast, interactive repositories, libraries of human history, art, science, and philosophy accessible to future generations, artificial intelligences, or even post-human entities. Brain-computer interfaces and mind-uploading research push the boundaries of what it means to be human. Though full consciousness transfer remains theoretical, experiments in preserving neural patterns and simulating cognitive processes hint at possibilities for transcending flesh. These endeavors spark profound philosophical debates about identity, mortality, and the nature of existence. Off-world colonies mature from experimental outposts into thriving communities, with multi-generational inhabitants who redefine human life in alien environments. Terraforming projects progress slowly but steadily, aiming to create habitable zones on Mars and beyond. The dream of a multi-planetary species becomes a concrete plan for survival, expanding humanity's footprint into the cosmos. On Earth, societies evolve into highly adaptive, resilient systems. Cities transform into ecological hubs, integrating green infrastructure, renewable energy, and circular economies. Social structures emphasize community, equity, and sustainability. Education fosters a planetary consciousness, preparing individuals to live harmoniously within Earth's biosphere and beyond. Culturally, the sense of urgency that once sparked anxiety shifts toward a celebration of existence. Art, music, and storytelling explore themes of continuity, transformation, and cosmic connection. New rituals honor both life and impermanence, blending ancient wisdom with futuristic perspectives. This cultural renaissance fosters emotional healing and shared purpose. Ethical paradigms expand to encompass not only human concerns, but also the welfare of ecosystems, future artificial intelligences, and potential extraterrestrial life. Interdisciplinary collaborations between scientists, philosophers, and artists shape inclusive frameworks guiding this new chapter. Questions of consent, rights, and responsibilities evolve to match the complexity of emerging realities. Politically, governance models adapt to a global and eventually interplanetary scale. Decision-making becomes more decentralized yet interconnected, leveraging technology to facilitate participation and transparency. Conflicts, though not eradicated, are addressed through diplomacy, mediation, and shared goals of preservation. Psychologically, humans develop a nuanced acceptance of finitude alongside a renewed sense of meaning. Mindfulness, community support, and philosophical inquiry help individuals embrace life's impermanence without despair. This balance between acceptance and action becomes a cornerstone of well-being. Importantly, this new future acknowledges the limits of control and the mystery of existence. It fosters humility, respect for complexity, and openness to unknown possibilities. In doing so, it honors the long journey of life on Earth, while embracing the vast potential of what comes next. The legacy of humanity becomes a mosaic: physical descendants, digital minds, cultural memories, and cosmic footprints. This multifaceted legacy ensures that even if biological extinction occurs, the essence of what it means to be human endures in transformed ways. As this vision unfolds, it invites reflection on our current moment. What choices can we make today that resonate beyond our lifetimes? How can we cultivate values and systems that support both survival and transcendence? The answers to these questions shape the trajectory from crisis toward a new dawn. In this chapter, the countdown is no longer just a timer ticking toward an end. It is also a catalyst inspiring reinvention and hope. Humanity's final act is not just about survival, but about creating a future that honors the depth and breadth of our existence. As we reach the final part of this journey, through the hypothetical world, where humanity knows the exact time of its extinction, it becomes essential to pause and reflect on what such knowledge truly means, not just for the future, but for us today. This story, while speculative, holds deep lessons about existence, purpose, and the choices that define us as a species. Knowing the date of extinction shatters the illusion of infinite time that has long underpinned human culture and progress. It forces a confrontation with mortality at a scale never before imagined, where entire civilizations, histories, and legacies are measured not in centuries or millennia, but in finite, ticking years. This awareness is both terrifying and enlightening. It compels us to re-examine our priorities, values, and the ways we relate to one another and to the planet. One profound lesson is the power and fragility of knowledge. Science and technology have brought us to this revelation, not to doom us, but to illuminate our vulnerabilities and capabilities. The same tools that predict extinction also hold potential solutions, if wielded wisely. It reminds us that knowledge is a double-edged sword. It can inspire hope or despair, action or resignation. How we choose to use knowledge defines our collective destiny. Another insight is the interconnectedness of systems: biological, ecological, social, and technological. The countdown is not the result of a single cause, but a complex web of interactions. This understanding urges a holistic approach to challenges, emphasizing collaboration over division and stewardship over exploitation. It reminds us that no individual, community, or nation exists in isolation. Our futures are deeply entwined. The psychological and philosophical implications are equally vital. Facing an endpoint challenges the human need for meaning. It invites us to seek purpose, not in endless accumulation or conquest, but in presence, connection, and legacy. The idea that meaning can be crafted even in the shadow of extinction is a testament to human resilience and creativity. It encourages embracing uncertainty with courage and compassion. Ethically, the scenario raises questions about responsibility to each other, to future generations, and to the natural world. It calls for a redefinition of progress that values sustainability, equity, and respect for life in all forms. It highlights the urgency of making choices that honor not just our species, but the intricate web of life that sustains us. Culturally, the countdown fosters a renewed appreciation for creativity, storytelling, and preservation. It challenges us to cherish heritage while imagining new futures. It underscores the role of art and philosophy in helping societies navigate existential challenges, offering both solace and inspiration. Importantly, this thought experiment confronts us with the paradox of human nature: our capacity for destruction and creation, despair and hope, selfishness and altruism. Knowing the extinction date could bring out the worst in us or the best. It is a mirror reflecting our deepest fears and highest aspirations. As we reflect on this scenario, a central question emerges. If we knew the end was certain, how would we live differently today? Would we embrace kindness more deeply, protect the planet more fiercely, and build communities with greater care? Would we pursue knowledge not just for power, but for wisdom? Would we celebrate life with fuller hearts, aware of its fleeting beauty? This reflection is not a call for fatalism, but for intentional living. It challenges us to recognize that while the future may be uncertain, our actions today ripple through time. The choices we make shape the legacy we leave, not only for ourselves, but for all life that follows. In closing, the vision of a known extinction date, though hypothetical, serves as a powerful lens through which to examine humanity's trajectory. It invites humility, responsibility, and hope. It reminds us that even in the face of limits, the human spirit is capable of profound meaning, transformation, and resilience. Ultimately, the story of "What if we knew the time we go extinct?" is a story about life, its fragility, its depth, and its enduring significance. It calls us to live fully, love deeply, and act wisely, knowing that the true measure of existence lies not in its length, but in its quality and impact. As the final seconds tick away, may we find strength in each other and in the legacy we create, a legacy that transcends time and affirms the indomitable essence of what it means to be human. Thank you for joining this journey into a world where humanity knows exactly when its story will end. While this scenario is imagined, the questions it raises are very real. How do we find meaning in the face of uncertainty? How do we act responsibly knowing our choices ripple far beyond our lifetimes? If there's one thing this exploration reminds us, it's that our future, no matter how uncertain or finite, depends on what we do today. It's a call to cherish life, protect our planet, and build a legacy worth leaving. If you found this thought experiment inspiring or unsettling, share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay connected for more deep dives into the what-ifs that challenge the way we see our world. Until next time, stay curious, stay hopeful, and remember, our greatest power is the ability to choose how we live, right now.